Have you ever felt like you were meant for something bigger, something beyond the ordinary? That's the feeling I get when I think about the incredible story of Jonah. You know, the one that's often reduced to a tale about a guy and a big fish? But let's dive deeper, because there's so much more to it than that. Jonah was a prophet, a messenger of God, tasked with delivering a very important message to the people of Nineveh, a city notorious for its wickedness. Imagine being in his shoes. You're chosen to go to a place filled with people who are known for their evil ways, and you have to tell them to change their ways. How would you feel? Excited? Anxious? Maybe a little terrified? For Jonah, it was definitely the latter. Instead of heading to Nineveh, he decided to run away. He hopped on a ship, sailing in the opposite direction, thinking he could escape his calling. Now here's where the story gets interesting. While he's on this ship, a massive storm brews out of nowhere. The sailors, terrified for their lives, start throwing cargo overboard, trying to lighten the load. Meanwhile, Jonah is down in the hold, fast asleep. Can you believe that? The world around him is in chaos, and he's just snoozing away. It's almost comical, but also a little tragic. It's a perfect metaphor for how we sometimes ignore our responsibilities, right? The captain finds Jonah and shakes him awake, urging him to pray to his God. They cast lots to find out who's responsible for the storm, and guess what? The lot falls on Jonah. The sailors, desperate for answers, ask him who he is and what he's done. Jonah, realizing he can't hide anymore, admits he's running away from God. He tells them to throw him overboard to calm the storm. Can you imagine being in that moment? Knowing that your choices have not only put you in danger, but also put others at risk? So, they reluctantly toss him into the sea, and immediately the storm calms. But here's the kicker. Instead of drowning, Jonah is swallowed by a giant fish. Now this is where the story often loses people. They think, oh, come on, a fish? Really? But let's think about it for a second. This fish is actually a vessel of salvation. It's not just a giant fish, it's a transformative experience for Jonah. Inside the belly of this fish, Jonah has time to reflect, to pray, and to reconsider his choices. Have you ever found yourself in a metaphorical belly of a fish? A place where you feel trapped, isolated, and forced to confront your own mistakes? It's uncomfortable, but sometimes that's exactly what we need. Jonah spends 3 days and 3 nights in that fish, and during that time, he repents and acknowledges his shortcomings. It's a moment of reckoning for him, a chance to realign with his purpose. Finally, the fish spits Jonah out onto dry land, and he's given a second chance. He heads to Nineveh, delivers God's message, and lo and behold, the people of Nineveh listen. They repent, they change their ways, and they turn to God. It's a massive success. You'd think Jonah would be overjoyed, right? But here's the twist. He's not. Instead, he's angry and upset. He wanted Nineveh to be punished for its wickedness, not saved. This is where Jonah's story really hits home. It challenges us to think about our own biases and judgments. How often do we want to see others face consequences for their actions instead of extending grace and understanding? Jonah's struggle is relatable. He's a prophet, yet he grapples with the same feelings of resentment and anger that many of us do. After all the chaos, Jonah goes outside the city, sits down, and pouts. He's sulking under a plant that God provides to give him shade, and then when it withers, he's back to being angry. God asks him, "Is it right for you to be angry about the plant?" Jonah responds, "Yes, it is. I'm angry enough to die." And God's response is profound. He tells Jonah that he's concerned about the plant, which he didn't grow or nurture, but he's not concerned about the thousands of people in Nineveh who don't know their right hand from their left. This is the crux of the story. It's about compassion, understanding, and the value of every single life. It's a reminder that we're all flawed, that we all have our moments of running away from our responsibilities, and that we all need grace. So, what can we take away from Jonah's incredible journey? First, it's okay to feel lost or overwhelmed. We all have our storms, our moments of doubt and fear, but it's how we respond to those moments that defines us. Secondly, we need to be open to change. Jonah learned that even when we think we have it all figured out, there's always room for growth and understanding. Lastly, Let's not forget the power of compassion. We may not always agree with others, but we can choose to extend understanding instead of judgment. Jonah's story teaches us that everyone deserves a second chance, just like he did. So, the next time you hear the story of Jonah, remember it's not just about a guy and a fish. It's about the struggles we all face, the lessons we can learn, and the compassion we can extend to others, even when it's hard. After all, we're all on our own journeys, navigating the storms of life, and sometimes we just need a little grace to guide us through.